Hey Web3 world, this is Natja Bester from Ad Lunam, the industry's first and only engaged to earn investing platform that gives you a proof of attention allocation mechanism, engaged to earn model, and NFT fractionalization. I am joined today by a group of lovely gentlemen all the way from Belgium, and we are going to be looking a bit into what is happening in the Belgian ecosystem in Web3. So stay tuned for what I think is going to be an amazing episode because everyone comes with a wealth of insight and experience from their perspective corners of the Web3 space. Now, I'm from South Africa originally, and whenever I go back there and I see the lack of Web3 spirit that is there, it's a painful thing to experience because, it's like your little pocket of the universe, and yet the world doesn't know what's happening there. In terms of Belgium as a country, where as people who are so integral to the development of the space in this country, where do you see the local industry operating at the moment? What level of innovation are we typically seeing in Belgium? Alexander, can we start with you?
Digitization in general, I think that Belgium at this moment is a bit lacking around. We are maybe too modest and too shy. We always compare with our neighbors like France and especially the Netherlands and Germany. I think that they are way before us, and I think that if you look at like the medium-sized companies that still in what we think is just normal to do, just start digitalizing your business, your administrative flows, and all that kind of stuff. That a lot of small, medium-sized companies need to do some efforts over there. Together with Side Measure, for example, we are participating in Tetra project, which is like a European subsidized a granted project together with universities. And there, the goal of that project is still how to support small, medium-sized companies to digitalize their business. So I think talking about Web3, we do have a lot of education and stuff to do to get people entirely convinced about what just Web2 digitalization can do with their business. So that is where Belgium is at this moment. That being said, I think there is like a layer in the society that is really, really innovative ahead. So it's busy with artificial intelligence, is busy with Web3. So you also have that layer in the society. But talking about small, medium-sized company, there is a lot of work to be done with what we think is quite just normal in doing business. Just digitalize the way how you're going to the market. Hey, that's my humble opinion. I don't know what Karel and Lawrence are thinking about it.
Yeah, wow, thank you, Alexander. I think that's such an important point because we tend to live in an echo chamber. If we are within a certain industry, within a certain level in industry, we start assuming it's like, the yellow car. If you buy a yellow car, then suddenly you start seeing them everywhere. But it's so incredibly important to understand that actually in most countries, businesses are very, very far away from the Web3 ideals. And I'm more and more starting to think that I should refer to what we are doing as Web 2.5 because it's not Web 3 yet. Like we are not there. We have the Web 3 vision, but we don't have the Web 3 step-by-step manual to bring everyone with us from Web 2. So, Carl, please tell me, what are your thoughts on the ecosystem in Belgium?
Yeah, I think Alexander already did a good job at explaining with the attitudes most Belgian businesses and consumers have. We tend to be very reluctant in terms of innovation. First, we want to see proof of business before they actually invest in something. However, what I do see is that because we kind of completely miss the e-commerce thing, if you look at the top e-shops and commerces in Belgium, all the shops they're from neighboring countries, from the Netherlands, from Germany, from France, because they deployed their e-commerce system way ahead before Belgium, and then suddenly saw, hey, there's a nice market very close to us. Maybe we can also service that market. And I think many business and business leaders have learned from that mistake. And like, why I'm saying that, because when we started Fortnite Meta last year, the first thing we thought is we're going to need to educate the market. We need to explain what is Web3 and why is it important to you? Why should you care as a business leader? But actually, what we saw is that actually very quickly people got it, and they're like, okay, not if we should do something, but what should we do in Web3? What should be our Web3 strategy? So we very quickly went beyond the fact of, do we need to do something? Do we really need Web3? But more like, what would it mean for my business, and how can it be relevant for me and my consumers? So that's something we very quickly got into with customers. And that kind of proves with the mindset, not for the whole, let's say, with the market itself, it's still quite behind, but the business leader who are innovating, they're clearly thinking about it. And if I see the speed between, let's say, my first Web3 event I had like almost 2 years ago until where we are today, it's really going very fast in that sense, I think. So I'm happy to see that we are adopting, but it's still the market itself is still far behind. The consumers are far behind, and understanding of NFTs and that kind of things is still way beyond. But I think it's really good to see business thinking about it and already experimenting with it.
Yeah, it's nice to get that perspective as well, because I was running a marketing agency in South Africa in 2012. So this is when the internet really hadn't penetrated to the SME level yet. So I found myself having clients all over the world, but I barely had any clients in South Africa because no one wanted to adopt this. They couldn't understand why have a website and why be on social media. Not only were their businesses not on there, but they were not even on there. So I always remind myself how early it is. But at the same time, what really stands out for me about what you said is the fact that businesses had missed the e-commerce hype. That now means that they already understand that technology affects huge changes. I mean, the information age, technology, information is the currency. And if you're not leading with that, you are by default lagging behind. So it's really fascinating to see how one failure to get the home run then leads to being much more open in a subsequent round. Lawrence, what about you from your experience? How do you see the Belgium ecosystem maybe flourishing both from a user perspective as well as from a business perspective?
Yes, well, maybe to take some fundamental views on it, if you look at the Belgian market, you could argue we are a pretty heavy SME-driven market. I wouldn't say we are heavy on corporates, given the size. We're not heavy on consumers. We have, what is it, almost 12, 11.5 million citizens in Belgium. So if you look at a whole Web3 space, for example, it's a quite heavy B2C angle approach. And there is movements into the B2B space regarding loyalty, but that still has to be, explored. So that means that initially, what does that mean for Web3? That in baseline or market, size is less big for companies to enter it to. So we need at least the United States, other Asian countries, or maybe Europe, which is pretty fragmented. Like I said, I'm moving to Madrid. I'm living there part-time. The English speakers are at a minority, even if it's a capital. So there's a lot of legal tax and language barriers to expand from Belgium. So that's one barrier. At the same time, if you look at Keyrock, automated market maker, if you look at Venly, complete blockchain technology provider, they've got some decent funding, both like 175 million, the other 20 million, I think 21 million. So we're actually doing pretty well in the space on the infrastructure level. So that's something to be proud of. But again, it's more of as a B2B. And then as a whole, where is the space going for Belgium? I think they noticed with the e-commerce, they missed the ball. I think it was mainly also a legal issue regarding, agreements on work, night shifts, that complicated everything. So I think they're trying to move faster, but I don't have a feeling that there's a lot of tendency to take risks still, even if I wish it would be more. So meaning a lot of incorporations happen in different countries, not in Belgium, because of compliance regulations, and something we're exploring as well. So it remains a difficulty for crypto businesses to thrive, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I thank you so much for that perspective, because I think it touches on something so incredibly important, namely, well, two important things: regulations on the one hand, and where countries like Belgium and the larger region like the EU is perhaps stifling innovation because of the regulations that are being placed. But and then on the other hand, if you look at some other countries where there are no regulations, it's the Wild West. And so this touches on very important conversation, but also it made me think of, if you consider the B2C versus the B2B, I think this is another really important conversation, in the sense, very many people, when they think of Web3, they only think of the B2C. And when the markets are down, it's really the B2C markets that are down, in the sense that the retail investors lose faith. What is not as highlighted is the B2B, because that continues to happen even during a bear market like the one that we have right now. It's very rare to speak to a company that's actively building and actively working with customers if they are B2C at this time. So most of the people that I speak to that are very actively building their businesses with the clients that they are acquiring are B2B. So I'm wondering, in terms of, we look at NFTs as they are right now. We know that there are a bunch of weird looking apes, and there are some funny little creatures drawn, and this is kind of what most people think about when they think about NFTs is, I don't get it. It's really stupid. It's really dumb. And I think it doesn't matter who you speak to. This is not a generational thing. You speak to anyone that is not in Web3, and it's almost like a chorus. Like the emperor without clothes. Like, oh, how can I see that he's not wearing any clothes, but no one else? So they have this idea that people in Web3 have been duped, right? Like we are the ones that live under an illusion, and the bubble is going to burst, and all of this is going to disappear, and one big joke will be on us. So I'm really curious, in your own circles that you move in, and this might be in Belgium, this might be international, but how do you find that people who are not in this space, how do they view NFTs right now? And if you have these conversations with them, how does the shift take place? Or does the shift take place where there's a light bulb that goes on and they go, okay, you know what, maybe there's something more here? Very curious. Karel, can we start with you?
Yeah, I was laughing because I kind of had the same, let's say, the same reflection when I first, like my first, let's say, encounter or first time I got into it was when I saw Gary Vee draw his doodles and selling it for like thousands of dollars, and I was like, I couldn't wrap my head around it, what was going on, and I was not necessarily joking about it, but I was just curious of what is the catch, why don't I see it? So I think all of us have at some point when we first encountered it really thought about, what is this about? How does this work? Why are they paying like thousands of dollars for 8 pictures? You can right click save it. I think we all have thought it. And I think what was for me kind of the eye opener was when I dug into that case of what's Gary Vee doing. And he explained, look, the tickets, the NFT is also your access to the next 3 VCons I'm going to organize, and they're going to be huge. They're going to be a lot of. So suddenly I thought, oh, but he ties in some value to it. So it's not just this picture. It's a picture that gives me access to something, to the community, to value. And I think that kind of opened my eyes to see like there's a lot of possibilities. And I think today when I talk to family and friends and so on, you often get like people heard about it, but they kind of joke with it. And they also joke like about what is happening in the metaverse. And I always say, look, it's a joke until it isn't a joke. And what I mean with that is you can look it up at YouTube. If you Google like Bill Gates at explaining the internet to the David Letterman show in the 90s, he's also been laughed up. Hey, why would you listen to a baseball game on the internet? Why you can listen on the radio? And I think it's a natural reflection with change. Every change, any innovation is always looked at very skeptically, and you have to go through it until there are like clear use cases. And I think it depends also a bit on how you as an individual look at things. Like for me, when I don't understand something, it triggers me to be curious about it. Why does it work? What's behind it? Or you can just laugh at it and see you don't see the application. And I think today I think what should move things forward is that I think technology will disappear and we will more and more focus on driving value, and people will see the value. So I think we see some good cases in the market, like with what Starbucks is doing. Is they don't talk about NFTs, they talk about stamps, they talk about a journey, and that's language that people understand. And they say, look, if you have certain stamps, you get certain value. So it's a loyalty program, and people understand there's nothing laughable, but it's really concrete. And I think that's where we need to go. And again, make the reflection with the 90s. If I in the 90s need to go on the internet, I had to have an ASP, I need to have an account, I need to buy a modem, I need to install the modem. There's a lot of technology going on before I got the value of what the internet could do for me. And I think today is the same thing. You need to create a wallet, you need to buy crypto, you need to do a lot of things. You need to see your seed phase, you need to, a lot of technical barriers that kind of we need to overcome until you see the value. And I think those will start to get disappeared. And I think there's a role of big brands, big companies to take the lead, to take the consumers and onboard the consumers into Web3 by providing value, lasting value to them as a, let's say, consumer of them. And I think that's where people probably, I mean, NFT will disappear. We'll talk about digital collectibles. So I think things will slowly start to adopt and be integrated into, let's say, more concrete examples, and then we'll see market adoption.
Yeah, absolutely. 100% agree with you. I mean, there's so much work cut out for us, but at the same time, it's such an exciting time to be in this industry. I remember in the early days of digital marketing before, it was kind of the same curveball where nobody really knew what it was. And then all those people came in that just sold courses, the gurus, the ones that sold you the snake oil. And that put so many businesses off of going onto the internet because it was all that sleazy place. But I mean, now look at us. How do we conduct almost any business at all without the internet? Like, I mean, my whole career is on the internet, most of yours as well. I mean, and the section that you have that's not on the internet is typically very small if you are a certain kind of person in a certain kind of industry in a certain kind of role. So amazing just how quickly it shifts. Thank you all so much. And yeah, just really to close off, I mean, this is for me always the true meaning of being in this space is being able to connect with others from all across the world, although today it happens to be all in Belgium, and really just talk about who we are, those people that are in this space right now, because I came into the industry in 2017 and the landscape looked very different. And with each passing year, it's shifted. It's almost like, like the time-lapse videography, where if you speed it up, then you really see how fast the tree grows. And I'm so incredibly happy about what I'm seeing, especially this year, because, kind of going on from last year into this year, because that great cleansing has once again begun. Those who are not here for the right reasons, they are somewhere else right now. And, they'll again try and come back. And of course they will succeed at some level and to some degree, but the foundation of this industry is getting stronger. And also extremely grateful for all of the insights and all of the experience and the nuggets of wisdom that all three of you shared with me today.